In this demo, we're going to look at the Save Post action hook in WordPress. This hook is triggered whenever a post is saved in the admin area. So let me start by showing you the end result of where we're going to get, and then I'll show you how we did all this by hooking into the Save Post hook. So what I'm going to do here is demonstrate the final functionality that we want, and then we'll look at the code to make it work. Let's say that we have a test post, and we're going to save it as a draft. Now, when we save it as a draft, we want draft to appear in all caps like this before the post title so that we could easily see in a post listing which ones are in draft mode. However, when we click publish, we want to make sure that that is taken out and does not stay in the title or in the URL. So if I start it as just test post and click save draft, you'll see that this is added. But once we go to publish, we can see that draft is removed from the URL and the post title. However, if we're ever to go back and put it back into draft mode again and click update, we'll see that draft then appears again in the title. To get this working in our functions.php file, we're going to scroll down till we see the add action save post. And then we're going to call in our own function, wp-hooks add draft to titles. So inside this function is quite a bit of code, but I'm going to walk you through it at a high level to show you what's going on. The first thing is that if we ever call save post, we get a parameter passed into it. So in the developer documentation, we could see when doAction save post is called, it's passed in the post ID as well as the post itself. We could also see, if we come to the codex documentation, an example of it in action, as well as using custom post types, and a message here on avoiding infinite loops. And what it tells you is that if you tried to run WP update post to save a post or add in your own custom information, it could potentially cause an infinite loop with WordPress's auto revision cycle and its own saving functionality. So it shows you if you want to call WP update post, which we do, then you have to call remove action save post, whatever you just hooked in, and then rehook it again. So basically, before you save the post, you have to unhook the hook that you're inside of, and then afterwards hook it back up. And if you don't do this, it'll cause an infinite loop and your page will never load again. Again, the importance of reading the documentation when it gets into working with some of these hooks. So back in our code, wp-hooks add draft to titles, we're passing in post ID and post, which we got when WordPress initially called the doAction hook. It called this, or it passed this in for us. So the first thing we check to see is if this is a post revision. So if WordPress is doing its auto saving, then we exit out and we don't want to mess with that. What we want to do is check to see if the post status is equal to draft. And if it's set to draft and the beginning of the post title does not start with the first characters of draft with a space, then we want to go ahead and add to the post title draft at the beginning. Notice that if draft is already set to the first few characters of post title, then we don't want to add it again because then we would keep adding draft. Then we write an else if where we check to see if it's published. So if it's set to publish, we want to make sure that draft like this is not at the beginning. And if it is equal to that, then we want to go ahead and remove it and save that as the new post title. If you're not familiar with PHP and using things like substring and some of that, this is again just a reminder that as you get deeper into WordPress development, you're going to also have to dig deeper into PHP. And while we are talking about PHP a bit in this course, it's not really a course on PHP, so I won't go into too much depth in how all of these work, but you could go ahead and Google these for more information. Now, the last thing we want to do is check again to see if the first few characters of post name, or the slug, post name is how the slug is saved, is equal to draft /, because that might get set automatically as we're working, and if it is, we want to go ahead and just remove that either way. And now that we've done all this modifying of the post object, it's time for us to save it. We're going to save it here with WP update post, but before and after that, we have to unhook this hook that we started with and then rehook it again. So we have remove action, save post, WP hooks add draft to titles, which is a little weird because we're currently in it, but that will allow us to properly execute the saving of the post with the new information we have, and then we're going to hook in again this to be queued up to listen for next time it's saved. So this may be a little bit more of a complex demo here than some of our other ones. However, when you get into saving content and working with some of this stuff, it can become more complicated even to accomplish something simple like this. However, I suggest that you take a chance to look through this again and maybe even modify it or play around with it on your own to see what else you could do modifying post content when it's saved.